Did you hear about this new test? How can we study? What do we do? That's ancient language. I can't read it. Oh my God. But Dr. Who wrote the study on Dr. Mohammed wrote the study on science. Oh my God, Dr. Ellie does no sport. So who's this guy? That is Dr. Little Pie. No.
What is this?
You got yourself a deal.
I'm your host,
kids.
Little Pie, and let's get right into the video. Unit circle, let's just start with the 4 main points. You might know this as a unit circle, unit, so 1, 0, 0, 1, -1, 0, and 0, -1. Simple as that. That's the 4 main steps. There are 3 sort of points or coordinates within each quadrant. So, and then this is where most people begin to have issues on memorizing. But I have devised a method that could be that could easily help you remember the 3 coordinates and the radians. I've been like, where did the unit circle go? How am I supposed to learn? But first, you see those like 3 points that I was talking about before? There is 2 ways or 2 things that you must know in order to do it. Here's the first one. Now you might be like, what are these numbers? What do they mean? This is what they mean. These are the 4 quadrants, and these are essentially the numerators of the 3 numbers. And remember, the order of the unit circle. Why is this so wonky? The order of the oh my god. Okay, the order of the unit circle goes this way. So this essentially goes counterclockwise. So it's basically the same formation. This goes counterclockwise. Technically, this is pi, pi, pi. But I just put 1 pi just to make this a little bit quicker, because usually on unit circles, you're limited on time. And this method is supposed to help you like accomplish this, do the entire unit circle in hopefully less than or equal to. Do a little example with the unit circle itself, just the numerators, and we'll introduce the second part later. So let's say, you know, this first part, how these would apply is that these would be potentially the numerators. So pretend right here, this is the first, this is technically 30 degrees. 30, 45, 60, yeah. Okay, I'll explain the degrees later on. But this is 30 degrees, and the numerator of this, the actual radian of this is pi over 6. That for these 3, they're all pi over something. Remember, we're going to get into the denominators later on, and I'll explain to you what this means. But as you can see, pi, 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 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 4, 5, 7, 11. This is just the numerators. Now let's get into the denominators. The second one. And this is going to be the denominators. Now you just need to remember 3 numbers. 6, 4, 3. Okay, so I'll explain how this numbering system works. Remember how like over here this was pi over 6, and I told you how this is gonna go counterclockwise from the bottom of from starting here from quadrant 1 all the way to quadrant 4 and back to here. You see how this is pi over 6 and how I explained how like remember how like in this pi, so this would be pi, and then the next number 4. And then you guessed it, the next number 3. See how like this correlates pi? Technically this is again so pi, just pi, remember pi, pi, pi. So you got the first quadrant, and then you gotta go in the same order as this too. 6, 4, 3. 6, 4, pi, pi, pi. This is where it's gonna start to change a little bit. So in this quadrant, now we have to go to 2, 3, 5. Now once again, simple as that. 2, 3, 5. Now the denominator is going to switch a little bit. Now it's going to go the other way around. So you know how this one was 6, 4, 3? It's going to be the other way around, which means it's going to be 3, 4, 6. Oh, forgot the pies. Never forget the pies. Okay. Oh yeah, and I also saying like this thing is just the numbers. Don't forget about the pies because this is not 2/3. This is 2 pi over 3. As we're getting into quadrant 3, to get into the next formation, 7, 5, 4. So pi, 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 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 4, and then we'll get into that 7 pi, 5 pi, 4. Okay, now here's the catch. Now you know how like you had to alternate from here 6, 4, 3 to 3, 4, 6? You essentially alternate every single quadrant. 6, 4, 3. Okay, now since it's back to 6, 4, 3. So let's see the numerators. Pi, 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 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 4. Following the chart. And then the denominators 6, 4, 3, 3, 4, 6. 6, 4, 3. And I'm pretty sure you can guess the last quadrant. You already know what's gonna happen. It's gonna flip, the denominator's gonna switch, and we're in the finals at 5, 7, 11. 5, 7, 11. 3 back to 3, 4, 6. So 3, 4, 6. And that is essentially the radians. Pretend like you're taking some kind of unit circle quiz, and your time limited. So the way I recommend is I can show you how we can convert from radians to degrees. So let's see, radians to degrees, you just essentially just do this, pi over 6, or like let's just do an example of pi over 6. Pi over 6 times, and you have to multiply by 180 over pi. So the pi's cancel out, you get 180 over 6. That's 30 degrees. Do it the other way around. Let's see, 30 over 1 times, and now this time you have to multiply by pi over 180. So this is 30 pi over 180. If you simplify it, it's just pi over 6. Let's try to do the same thing that we did here. Let's just call this the radian. Let's just keep these radians. So we'll keep this here. Now let's work on degree. Let's just make a brand new. Before we get into that, there are special radians about the quadrantal, which are like these 4 points that we were talking about in the beginning. Those 4 points are special. They do not follow that like chart and like the 6, 4, 3. They're completely different. These are solely just, you need to like just know. So for this, let's start here. This is 0. I'm gonna put these in yeah, so you can see them. This is going to be 0, and technically this is 0 pi, but 0 times anything is 0. So 0. Or, well, this is the start, so this is 0. Or if you do a complete circle, this is going to be 2 pi. This top one, so is going to be pi over 2. This right here is going to be pi. And this right here, we'll just put this right here. This is going to be 3 pi over 2. Now the way that I showed you before, you know how like you multiply by like you can know these like from heart. 90 degrees, 180, 270, 360, simple. And I guess you can just do like the method that I did before. So like for example, let's do 360 degrees, 360 over 1 times pi over 180 is, it's just gonna be 2 pi over 1. Well, yeah, if you simplify it equals 2. Now those all interconnect with the degrees too, as they're followed by degrees. So, for degrees, we started off with 30 degrees. So this is how you kind of do it. This is kind of the equation, if you would like to call it. The first one is going to be called 30 degrees, or the first one is 30 degrees. So, okay. And then the next one is going to be 45 degrees. And after I fill in this, I'll show you the technique. So 40, 30, 45, 60, 60, and then this is going to be 90. So I'll just explain to you what happened. So for the first one, you essentially just get the degrees by this 30. Just add 30. That's number 1. Remember these lines. So 1, 2, 3, and this thing will be 4. That's just imaginary. You don't need to know that for sure, but it will help you out. So for the next one, after you get the number, you add 15. See, 30 plus 15, 45 degrees. And now for the third one, you add 15 once again. See, 45 plus 15 is 60. And then once you get to the fourth one, to this to here, alternating from there to there, you add 30 once again. So it's essentially like this. So 30, 0, well, since we're starting from 0 degrees, 0 plus 30 is 30. 30 plus 15 is 45. 45 plus 15 is 60. And 60 plus 30 here is 90. This will be 90 plus 30, 120. 120 plus 15, 135. 135 plus 15, 150. 150 plus 30, 180. 180 plus 30, 210. 210 plus 15 is 225. 225 plus 15 is 240. And then over here is 270, 300, 315. Again, 350 plus 15 is 330, and 330 plus 30 is 360. Or backwards. Alright, so from this work, just remember to follow this chart right here, and you should be able to get through the degrees. I say the best way is to do as many unit circles as you can and try to test yourself. The coordinates in each of those. Okay. Remember how in the beginning of the video I told you about these things like the 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1. First one, remember how this is 30 degrees? Well, as I said before, this one is actually rad 3 over 2, 1/2. I'll explain to you what this means. What this exactly means is that for some kind of reference triangle, if you do some kind of reference triangle and you put in the 30 or this, if you put in like the pi over 6, you will get, and oh yeah, I wanted to make this clear. This is cosine and this is sine. So, you know how like you would just use SOHCAHTOA and with the reference triangle of 30, and you do all the work and you get this as 2 rad 3 1. So sine opposite 1/2, and then cosine rad 3. There's a special technique for so that I'm just gonna make a chart for this because it'll just make it a little bit more easier to see, let's just look at the coordinates. I'll tell you how this one would go right now. Okay. So as you can see, you have to think of, like, this is how I like to think of it. You use this method. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. And I'll explain to you what this means. Do you see how over here, the what is it called? The cosine value, or x, is rad 3 over 2. Well, don't focus like this. Look at the numerator just to make it a little bit more simpler. Rad 3, so we'll count that as 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Now, there are also signs. Remember that there's only 3 values, and so you can just, there's not like there's like 2 values with rad 3. There's just rad 3 over 2, positive or negative, rad 2 over 2, and 1/2. That's it. That's all there is. So, like, you can just differentiate the 1, so per 1. So you know how this is 3, 2, 1, and they're all over 2. So that'll just make it a little bit easier. Okay. Back to this. Alright, so back to what we were saying. So, from this chart, you can possibly guess. Alright, so, same way. To follow this chart, let's do the same way. This was 3, 2, 1. In order, so, and this is, remember how, like, what is it called? Not the numerators, the denominators of the radians were flipped from like 643 to 346. Same way for this. And just remember this. Oh yeah, here's another thing to catch just to help you out with the signs. Or signs, not like a sign, but S-I-N. You have to pay attention to whatever this is. So just remember this. If you get a 3, for example, you get a 3, you get a rad 3 over 2. And the only thing that goes with rad 3 over 2 is just 1/2. This is just regarding the unit circle. So it's just gonna be 1/2. It's not gonna be rad 2 over 2, is because rad 2 over 2 is a completely different sort. Rad 2, if you see a rad 2 over 2, the other value is also gonna be rad 2 over 2. And if you get 1/2, then the other value is rad 3 over 2. Just you need to remember that. So if you get rad 3 over 2, you have to get the other half of it, which is 1/2. If you get 1/2, then you have to get the other one. Okay. So just know that if you get any of these numbers, the other number is how it would go. Okay. So back to here. Alright, so just as we explained, to get these values, and we're gonna worry, and there's like different signs, like S-I-G-N, signs per quadrant. We'll worry about that after we get the coordinates. So, from you can guess, according to this chart, 1, 2, 3, so 1/2, rad 3 over 2, 2, rad 2 over 2, rad 2 over 2, and rad 3 over 2, 1/2. It's just the same thing. You just need to remember this, that it just needs to follow this order. So 3, 2, 1.
Through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays, and on we'll go.
So that's how it goes. Just remember, follow the chart and follow that little 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. You might be like, well, okay, that's it, we're done. Not exactly. Remember that these are quadrants. So they have different signs. Quadrant 1. Yeah, I should just put it right here to make it more simple. Quadrant 1. You have to understand about the x and y's. X is is positive and y is positive. So this is positive, positive. Now quadrant 2. Quadrant 2. Here, we should make it. Quadrant 2 is a little bit different. The y is still positive. Like the y is still positive, but the x is negative. So it would be negative, positive. Now, quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is negative, negative. Negative down, negative y, negative x. So it's just negative, negative. And then, lastly, the fourth quadrant is positive x, negative y. So, positive, negative. Okay. So, let's take this little chart. Well, that's how we should just remember this, is because just remember, just follow the x's and y's. X's and y's. So now, since we have our coordinates ready, we should now start to make the changes. This quadrant is fine. Nothing's wrong with it because it's positive. It's positive, positive. It's positive, positive. So just follow. So this is correct. Okay, now this quadrant, all the x values should be negative. So like this. Okay, now that's done. That's done. Now next, negative, negative. So you would have to change all of these to negative. Okay, and then back to here. Positive, so just change the sign or the y value to negative. Hope you can see it, but just remember that this is a negative. So positive, negative. Okay. And that's the degrees. Voila. Okay, now here's a little tip. Remember from before we were talking about this? So remember the chart from before? The pi. This is actually pi, pi, pi. Now, remembering this firsthand, you might be like, this is really complicated. But you gotta like develop. If you develop some kind of rhythm, it should help you out. So that's why like I have created some kind of. You also have to kind of repeat it very fast so like sticks to your memory. So like pi, 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 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 4, 5, 7. Just start off with this. Pi, 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 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 4, 5, 7, 11. That's for the numerator. 6, 4, 3, and then 3, 4. Remember how it goes from 6, 4, 3 to 3, 4, 6. And if you would like the degrees, you can always just take down that chart.
Alright guys, welcome back. This is Professor Lil Pi here. Now the videos before that I showed that are before this are all like an in-depth explanation on how to do my method on the unit circle. Now this is the actual way. Like pretend like this is a test. This is the way that you'll do it. First, I recommend that we start off with the classic pie chart. Pi, 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 2, 5, 7, 5, 4, 5, 7, 11. Okay, and then remember always 6, 4, 3. And if you want, you can always just add like that chart that we talked about. How you can always add that chart on like the degrees, so like 30, 15, 15, 30. whatever helps you the most, always write that down before you start it. Okay, now since we have that, let's begin it. Let's start off with the degrees. Might as well. So let's see, right here, it'll be obviously 0. So 0, let's follow along with this. 0, 30, 45, 60, 90, 120, 135, 150, 180, 110, 225, 240, 270. In case you're lost, I recommend just to like backtrack a little bit to my old video, not to my old videos, to the videos before this, because this is just for the purpose of teaching, of just showing you how this would be like on an actual, like real life, like in like a real example. So like you just follow this chart right here and keep on filling it in, like I am. 300, 315, 330, and 360. Okay, now let's do the radians. So this is going to be 0. Remember, let's do the numerators first. So pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 5, 4, 5, 7, 11. Okay, now the denominator. 6, 4, 3, 3, 4, 6, 6, 4, 3, 3, 4, 6. Alright. Now, okay, now we have to get into the ones for the quadrantals. So, classic. So, classic 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay. Now we have got those. Now let's do the coordinates. Let's start with the easy ones. 1, 0, 0, negative 1, 0, 1, negative 1, 0. And now, remember, in case, I'm gonna do the chart right here, but this is not necessary. Oh, sorry. Alright, now fill it in. So, and remember the actual like signs, like for either it's positive or negative for the x and y's, we'll do that last. Alright, so those are all the coordinates. Okay, now let's determine the signs. Quadrant 1's always positive, we know that. For this one, the x is negative, so just put like a minus over here for the x. The y is still positive. Hope you can see it, but it's right there. Yeah. Okay, now this one's both minus, so just put like a big like minus sign by the numbers. Don't put it like outside the parentheses, or it's gonna look like that you're like distributing it. Don't do that. Put it like, try to squeeze it inside. Now for the right side, try the y value is negative. And voila, that's the unit circle. And this was just the explanation, so keep on practicing this. That's my recommendation. Always practice as much as you can, and then keep on going until you can nail this. I'll put this unit circle link in the description, and you can print this copy, and you can print as many as you want and keep on practicing. Alright, everyone. That's the video. Professor Lil Pi out. Peace.
Obeyed the light, but always a gone. You're for